Are you kidding me? This is still Target. So there's this new form of advocacy I like to call designer advocacy that's become all the rage in the world of progressive elitism, especially when it comes to guns. It's the laziest form of advocacy imaginable. I'm talking about these so-called artists who wrap themselves in warm, self-righteous blanket of social activism by selling gun bracelets, necklaces, and t-shirts, paintings, and God knows what else in the name of ending gun violence. Because you know, when in doubt, blame the gun. And then when that doesn't work, blame the gun again. Cut the bullshit. What you're really doing is making money off the provocative, alluring, dare I say, sexy nature of a gun. Like a homophobic, sexually confused teenager, they decry everything about a gun, but then turn around and capitalize off the taboo image perpetuated by Hollywood and the media. And it speaks to a deeper truth you don't want to admit. You think guns are cool. Why else would you adorn yourself with pieces of an item they claim to hate? Why put it up on their walls or place it on their mantles? Atheists aren't hanging pictures of Jesus on their mantle. You can come up with all of the little cute excuses you want to explain why you're slapping paint on guns and turning 1911s into musical instruments, and God knows what else you closet homosexuals are doing. But the whole you want to hide the gun behind the paint explanation is bullshit. Let's just say what we all know to be the truth, that you all are a bunch of closet homosexuals and this anti-gun advocacy is nothing more than a cover-up. The truth is, you all don't have a clue about what you're talking about. If you really want to force people to think about violence, take your ambiguously artistic ass to the hood, pick up bloody t-shirts from crime scenes, and frame them and sell them for $200 a pop to people who think wearing part of the ghetto is edgy. Or how about instead of turning a perfectly good AR-15 into an empty comment on your own self-righteousness, you use your obvious interest in awareness raising to do what the media won't. Educate the public on the truth about violent gun crime in this country. The guns are almost never legally owned, the shooter almost never prosecuted, and the story almost never reported. But you won't do that because there's nothing edgy about actually ending violence. It's much cooler to look like you want to end violence with empty artistic platitudes. You know that the overwhelming majority of gun violence occurs in hellhole neighborhoods where nobody's wearing your moronic bracelets. You might discover that no amount of bracelets sold in your artistry coffee house neighborhood is gonna have any effect whatsoever on the parts of the city that you wouldn't even drive an armored tank through. Hell, you might even discover that those guns you pretend to hate are actually a hell of a lot of fun to legally and responsibly shoot. But art isn't about finding a new perspective for you though, is it?
firearm a platform for artistic expression? Yes, absolutely.
To me, when I think of art, I don't really see the things that I associate with guns as being artistic.
I think a firearm makes a great platform for artistic expression. I think just about anything would make a great platform for artistic expression. You know, you look at a lot of these custom weaponry, there's a lot of art and time and detail that people spend, you know, designing and engraving, and you know, a lot of work and detail involved in that.
Kind of like sport shooting. Would that be like an artistic form of expression? Yeah, definitely.
Artistic expression in a firearm, I suppose it could be. I don't look at it that way.
What was that? You saw that video where the 12-year-old girl was running through shooting range, like a little drill? That was amazing. It was impressive.
When I shoot out there, it's like almost making music. Everything, my movement is choreographed to the last hundredth of a second. So yes, absolutely, I think it's a legitimate platform.
Clearly, I agree with you. As someone who champions all forms of innovation and fresh thinking in the firearms world, I was intrigued when Jesse James came onto the gun scene a few years ago. Like a lot of you, I sat back and watched, curious if he could live up to his own reputation. Well, this year, I finally got a chance to head down to his shop in Austin and see his handiwork for myself. Finally was able to make it out here after, what, years of trying to?
3 years.
But finally got out here, and I'm glad I have, and this place is pretty dope.
Is it different than when you were expecting?
No, it's kind of what I was expecting, but you know, seeing things in reality versus what they are in your head, sometimes in reality and what your mind says doesn't match. This actually matches.
It's better than the internet.
And you know what's funny? It's like, because your guns on the internet, they look good on the internet, but like seeing it in person is a totally different experience. So the gun thing, was that always a part of your life, or is that something that just kind of happened at a certain point?
My dad was pro-gun, like NRA member, lots of sheriff friends, and they always had guns. And I remember like one 4th of July or something, like one of my dad's sheriff friend brought him a cannon to like the middle of like Southgate.
Yeah.
You know, like shooting it on the street. And
this is in California.
Yeah, Lytle Creek, and shoot. And that's one thing he did do right, is he taught me gun safety. Shooting it when I'm like 10, boom!
What was the gun culture out in Cali like at that time? Is it anything like it is today?
It's so oppressed, but I didn't even know it. I didn't even realize, like, until I moved here, like, how bad it was.
Really?
You know, I bought an Armalite heavy barrel AR-50, and then they like got a letter where they were trying to seize it and take it when they banned like 50 caliber. And I had to go down and have a letter from a lawyer and register it and all this stuff. My shop was on the corner for 20 years, where it's just like mayhem. But then when I moved here, I was like, whoa. I walked into the gun store right up that has like a whole class 3 room and stuff like that, and I'm like, can I be in here?
Yeah.
Like, I was so oppressed that I shut it off. I didn't look at gun magazines. I didn't look online. I just knew I couldn't have anything, so why even bother looking at it?
Yeah. You've been building bikes for all these years. You got hugely famous as a result of it. What made you want to start building guns?
I came here and I like went on Texas Gun Trader and I bought a used Kimber CDP2. Little commander size bull barrel. I welded up all the slide, then I decked it, machined it, and like flat topped it, and then I made grips. I did a trigger job. I figured out how to take the whole thing apart, and then I had Tay that does all the engraving for our bikes engrave the whole thing. And then I polished it all up, and I posted a picture of it on like Facebook, and like, you know, like 10,000 people liked it, and some friend of mine that's a prince in Kuwait called another friend and said, hey, get a hold of Jesse. And he's like, I want to buy 3 of those for me and my brothers. And I'm like, shit, it would be like 25 grand a piece. Yeah. He's all, sold. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm in the gun business now.
So how different is being in the gun business versus building?
Well, I think it's a combination of like, hey, I had a market for what I do and the way I do it. And I really, walking around SHOT Show like 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, wow, you know, I know how to do stuff kind of a little bit
Similar to what?
better or different than
Gotcha.
99% of the people here. Just the way I do things is different. So I was like, I can really make a difference. I could like carve out a little corner for myself.
Now, would you consider yourself an artist?
I have a really hard time with that term because I know some people that are artists. It's hard because it's like guns and bikes and cars, they're like lawnmowers, man. You just ride that thing hard until it breaks and then you weld it up and keep going.
So why put so much passion into it? Because I look at the stuff you create, it doesn't, when I look at your design language, I don't get, they're just lawnmowers to me.
You could have a nice lawnmower.
So you just like nice things?
Yeah, you ever see one of those badass, like chromed out garbage trucks in like New York City?
No.
Cruising down the highway?
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah.
Why
make it nice? You're just gonna dump garbage in it.
New York City is pretty dirty though.
Yeah.
It's dirty as hell, actually.
If you're gonna do anything, you might as well do it with a little flair, a little style.
Isn't that the same thing as art?
Art is subjective though, because you're not gonna like, if some guy does some abstract drawing and then you're gonna look at like a veneer painting, those can't compete.
Why would one command a higher price than the other? Because I think there's kind of more of a concrete, there's a starting point with machines, you know? You can put more value
I don't think
in.
what I do is ever fully considered as art because it has to do something.
What has to do something? The art?
No, what I do.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the skills I have are blue-collar tradesman skills. They're not, you know, impressionist, art, sculpture, clay, even though I use clay. Even though, actually, I'm gonna eat these words because I just agreed to do a collaboration with Albert Paley, one of the best sculptors in the world, metal sculptors. If you see my feed, people like, all day, I want to come work with you. Any way somebody could get a hold of me, email, letter, Facebook, like, can I come? I'll pay to come spend a day in your shop. I'll pay to come work there. I love what you do. You inspire me, blah, blah. You know, I appreciate all of it. But when I was 21 years old, I wrote that same letter to Albert Paley.
Really?
And now him and I are working together. And he never responded because he didn't, I guess, someone was running his office that was messed up or whatever, and he never got the messages. But it's like kind of a good lesson, like, hey, just stick with it, man. You can find your own way.
Would you say you're a better bike builder or a better gun builder?
Oh, definitely better bike builder.
Yeah.
I'm still, I mean, I'm only 2 years into my master pistol smith apprenticeship and still like discovering and learning every day. And I don't think I've really hit stride yet. And we're doing a lot of stuff that's really cool, but I'm still like working on other people's formats and other people's, you know, other ARs and 1911s, which are beautiful. And but I want to see what I make when I throw all that stuff out like I did in the bikes, because for years, probably for the first decade of building bikes, I used other people's frames, other people's front ends, other people's stuff. And it wasn't until the late 90s that I was like, man, why am I using everybody else's stuff? I'm going to make everything myself. Then the bikes took on a whole different thing. And now I make everything, you know, so everything but a motor and trans. But gun stuff, You know, well, you were there when we started.
Yeah.
We first rolled everything
I
out.
was out there, yeah.
So look at how much it's changed. Now what's going to happen in another 3 years, you know, and still struggle to keep it small.
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in
making it just this massive production where you're kind of just...
You know, and I've already had that.
turning
I've already had, you know, a multi-million-dollar company with hundreds of employees and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, it's not, I have to be working to be successful. Like physical manual labor.
Gotcha.
That's successful to me.
hands-on.
You know, a lot of people that struggle with their business or what they're passionate about and stuff, they don't ever figure in their labor part of it.
Gotcha.
Everybody tries to navigate through any kind of work stuff or idea or business, and they're always trying to look for the magic trick or the shortcut or the easy way, and it's not that, man. It's just work. The skills that I'm learning here, it's taken me since 2009 to get to this point, and that's sweating my ass off and making my fingers bleed to learn how to do it, and that's all it is. You know, it's just perseverance and stick with it, you know.
You might think Rob Bianchin is as far removed from Jesse James as it gets. He looks like a much better fit for an Ivy League campus than a gun shop. But when it comes to pushing the envelope for the emotions and feelings that a firearm can express, Rob and Jesse aren't so far apart at all.
We do have a reverence for raw materials. And it's the same thing if somebody's a chef or, you know, they make wine, right? You know, the raw material's critical. I'll hand select each year many of the raw materials that we'll use. So whether it's a beautifully figured wood, whether it's ancient materials, we've worked with quite a bit of mammoth. We've worked with the mammoth tooth. We've worked with the tusk. We've worked with bone. I've worked with materials such as Borneo amber.
What's the drive of that inspiration?
You look for beauty, right? And then you look for rarity. So, you know, scarcity, the uncommon, right? And then a lot of times the material itself will be the starting point of what will evolve. So like, man, from that material, like this will give you an idea for design, give you an idea for the nature, give you the idea for color tones. And so you just riff off of, like, sometimes it'll have its own will that you just work from. And we use that for quite a bit of inspiration. A lot of people will say we make beautiful guns, and we do. But it was more important first to make a gun that was mechanically well engineered, at a very high level. Then you have to make it aesthetically interesting. Because to me, it's beyond the tool. I mean, to me, it's an emotional experience. You create a gun, there's a relationship in that gun, and you know, it might speak to you, it might not. But you know, when you get it to talk, it's a beautiful thing.
There's a component of advocacy that comes into play with what you're doing and the artistry involved in creating a firearm. And I say that because when you can take something like a firearm outside of the realm of just being a tool, as the other side has so conveniently called the tool of death, right? And then you put it in a space of art, expression, value, you strengthen not only the ability to own that gun, but the heritage and what it represents, what it means, the Second Amendment in and of itself. So I actually thank people like you.
You know, the freedom is the most powerful force on earth, and we embodied that in our founding principles. And the gun represents that. Such an important aspect of a founding principle. So ideologically, it's a very fundamental and important part of our system that has to be preserved.
Absolutely. Stage 3 is a California defensive shooting pistol course run individually, with times for each individual added to the overall team score. Shooters begin in a vehicle, and on the beep, exit and opens the trunk. Shooter inputs the correct 3-digit code to unlock the case and grab their pistol. Then they load a 10-round magazine on the move and engage 7 silhouette targets twice each. Then it's 3 poppers and a sprint to take cover behind the second vehicle for one final hit on a still target at 40 yards.
Shooter ready.
Ready?
Stand by.
Ah, you little bastard. Fuck. Oh, that's the wrong magazine. And... Oh, shit. Okay. Woo! I did it all wrong there. Stand by. All right, nice.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Keep moving. I knew he was gonna make that shot. That's how he rolls.
Shooter ready. Stand by.
Nice. Wow. She smoked those targets, man. I mean, nice run.
So episode 6, lay it on me.
Can we talk about this whole designer advocacy?
Designer advocacy?
Designer advocacy.
And from the designer king, like.
It's fake advocacy. It's wrapping basically the glorification of an item or wrapping that in social advocacy to make it seem so much better and bigger than it really is, which is essentially living in the provocative nature of, say, a gun, for instance. Knowing that it's provocative, it's taboo, it's polarizing, so therefore I can get as many people to buy this thing because it's like, oh, look at me, I'm wearing a piece of jewelry that was on an illegal gun that was used in a crime at one point. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And where do the profits for
Well, they say
something like that
they say
go?
profits go to finding ways to stop gun violence. Very vague and ambiguous charities and organizations who don't really know what they are doing.
So if
probably go into the pocket of
Probably, yeah.
whoever's
profiteering from it.
So if they were doing this and they were pro-gun, that would be okay?
I wouldn't have a problem with it considering my ideological leanings, but
he's honest.
But then I also
Exactly.
But then I bask in the provocative nature of a firearm. Okay. I mean, I'm the same guy that calls them sexy. Remember?
Trying to forget.
So you're saying these people bask in the same provocative nature
Absolutely.
of the gun?
Absolutely. They just
whilst
cloak it in social
fighting
advocacy.
against it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of see where you're going with that. Like, if you really don't believe in guns, then why are you even using them?
Exactly. You wouldn't want nothing. Like I said, an atheist doesn't hang a picture of Jesus on his wall.
Yeah.
Unless he's trolling. And
that's what they're doing, and you're okay.
Yeah.
So you just kind of proved your own point.
Jesus in a Hawaiian shirt or something.
I don't think he was just running around on beaches like that. Well, then again,
you don't know his life. I got you. Okay, I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's the whole thing behind designer advocacy.
And it was interesting to see the contrast between what you're talking about with this designer advocacy versus Jesse James's production of like truly artistic firearms.
Which is interesting because he actually said it himself. He doesn't necessarily see what he does as art to a degree, which is kind of odd to me because I was like, no, actually, you were kind of the embodiment of it in this sense in many ways. But
well, I think that what kind of makes it art is the passion behind it. Like, if you think about it, like, even with your, crappy shooting or skeet shooting, like, it's still the passion behind it, and that's kind of what gives it a little bit more value than just the.
And Jesse James literally bleeds for his art.
Like he said those exact words, like he bleeds. JJ is like warts and things on his hands, like they bleed for their art.
I got scars too.
Oh, schnookums. No, those are paper cuts. That doesn't count.
But no, you're absolutely right. I think in terms of expression, just the inherent passion behind it, in many ways, kind of creates the artistic nature.
Yeah.
So I can definitely dig that.
To me, the irony of it is, I think that it was kind of juxtaposed such that it's either it has utility or it has the high aesthetic. But to me, like when Jesse James was rattling off all these customizations he did to his gun, I was like, cool story there, cool story there. I have no idea what he's talking about. And so I think to the extent that you know the gun and you know the functionality of it, that's where you have the room to make those creative and those aesthetic changes, because he's talking about grips and earmarks and highlighters, and I don't know, but it was a lot of like technical terms that I think you have to have some technical experience with to know what you can customize, what you can't, what you can, make more efficient, or what you can take out altogether.
And I can see somebody criticizing my stance on the whole critique of the designer advocacy and saying, well, that's just their form of expression. And to a degree it is. However, all I'm pointing out is, look, you low-key really like this stuff. I don't have a problem with the artistic expression aspect of it. Express yourself all you want. Hell, run down naked on Main Street screaming, this is art. At the end of the day, just don't try to marry it with some fake form of social advocacy that's designed more or less to vilify the very thing that you're propping up. That's all I'm saying.
Reasonable. From an unreasonable man.